Hello.
Yeah, good
Hello.
evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening, boss.
Okay, I'm about to share my screen. Do let me know when you start seeing the screen, okay?
Okay. 10:40. I'll call you.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, so I'm about to mute everyone, so we will start. um, Martin says every week you're changing your name.
What to do now, boss?
All right, so I think that's enough. I'm about to mute everyone so we can continue. But before we go, okay, let me properly introduce myself. Okay, all right, everybody, good evening. JFX here. Welcome to this weekend's sorry. Welcome to this weekend's study section. And before we continue, based on the previous section, I can't really remember the topic, but for those of you who have questions, and then unrelated questions as well, but related to trading, you can ask them now before we start, the official topic of the section. Because I don't think it's going to be a very long section, but let's see how it goes. For those of you who have questions, you can kindly ask your questions now before we move ahead.
Yeah, boss, I have a question.
Okay.
It's not based on technical question. I guess I overheard, like, kind of, it was in the course of listening to some of the past recordings before this October session. I overheard you say fundamentals, like news react the opposite direction. If a data comes out positive, let's say for CPI now, it comes as positive. Formerly, my before knowledge, I knew that, okay, if the data comes out positive, it favors the currency, my previous knowledge. And sometimes I tend to like, okay, maybe buy the pair, and sometimes it goes against me, just like that. But my question is, if the data comes out positive now, how do you trade it? So that's just my question.
Okay, let's say we are trying to trade. First of all, just what I always say, my first rules about news fundamentals is that fundamentals are always excuses to move the market. Okay, have that in mind. They are always excuses to move the market. The news will not move against the direction of the market because the market moves wherever it wants to go. So if you are correct in your analysis and then a news comes up, there's no reason for you to close your position or anything. If you're sure that you're about to swing this trend and you're in the right direction, trust me, the news is just going to be an excuse for you to move, for the market to move in your direction. Okay, you guys have seen me multiple times traded doing news hours, but mostly I don't post my charts when the news are about to release. You mostly see me that I'm unbreakable, and when the news release, it goes in my direction or kicks me out. So that's the two things that are likely to happen. But news are all just always excuse to move the market. Okay, so if the market is bearish and then the news comes out, first of all, you need to understand that the news is just an excuse, to move that particular market. Okay. So secondly, when you're talking about how to trade news, I don't advise anybody trading news. What I always say is if you're in a position and then the news is coming out, in this candle, this is what time frame? Sorry, let me check what time frame. Okay, this is the daily time frame. Let's say we were okay, let's say we were on the 1 hour time frame, 4 hour time frame. If price is going to be moving like this, it has to be a news reaction, right? So if this is going to happen, it has to be the news. So let's say you were trying to buy this market, let's say because of this, let's say you're in a buy, or because of this, and then your focus was around this, having this guy as an inducement. Okay, so obviously we know this is like a news release, right? this particular candle has to be a news release. So if I was in the sell from here, I don't advise anybody to close because your news is coming up. What I always say is break even and let the news move the market, because it's always an excuse to move the market. This is also a news, right? As you can see the structure from here, price did this. Break structure, goes back up, return back liquidity, down, cleared liquidity, right? So if you were in a sell from here and then news release in, let's say, a few minutes, I won't advise you to close, thinking the price might do something like this. The best you can do, you can't really move the market because, you're just predicting it. So the best you can do is break even and let the news do its thing, all right? Let the news move the market for you. All right, so whenever your news is about to come out, let's say it's a DXY related news, that's USD related news, DXY. And then the forecast for the news. You have so many sites who give accurate forecasts most of the time for news. If it's about to come out bullish for DXY, and then you're seeing price currently clearing out these lows, right? This is a fair value gap, did not really return into the IPA candle, but then this is like a 50% of the fair value gap. And then you see you are expecting a news is about to release, let's say 2 minutes. You see a break of structure here. So obviously this is like a swing low and a strong low as well because it took out the high which created it. And also did not really clear liquidity, relative equal lows, right? So we know if price returns back down, is either going to do something like this, up, right? Or something like this is going to happen, mitigating the IPA candle, right? And then based on the higher time frame direction, we see a lot of liquidity on this spot, but at the same time, we're expecting something like this, either something like this or something like this. This is how I do my news. So, or something like this. Okay, so these are the three forecasts we have, but then price is clearing out liquidity. So we know you can move up from here. Sometimes price clears liquidity without mitigating the POI. Sometimes. So if you are already in a sell, in a buy, let's say based on the lower time frame direction, you got, something like this. And then your POI here, and then you're in the buy position from here. I won't advise you to close your position because, this is like a beautiful trade. And then you see news coming out any moment from here. I will advise you to break even from here and let the news do its thing. You could see something like this, all right? And then, or you could see something like this. But either way, it's going to move your direction because news are always excuse to move the market. So they're not really that important as long as you're in the right direction and you're following, liquidity, you're clearing out liquidity because news are going to be used to clear out liquidity. Okay. So is that clear?
Okay, thank you. Very clear.
Okay. So anybody else has any other question? Anyone else? All right, so let's move into today's topic. We're talking about hidden base. Today we'll be talking about hidden base. All right, so let me go. Hidden base mostly. I like last section I told you guys a little bit about IPA candles, and I believe a lot of you already know how to use IPA candles because IPA candles are like the candles resting at the 100% field of the fair value gap. All right, so this is a fair value gap, right? So the candle resting below that fair value gap or above that fair value gap, just at the 100% field, it's an IPA candle. Okay, right here, you have an IPA candle here. Right, so you see the fair value gap, weak, the next candle mitigated it. And then this is also an IPA candle. It can be a bullish candle, a bearish candle. It doesn't really matter which candle it is. It's just the candle resting just above the fair value gap. It can be another block as well. An IPA candle can also be another block. But you have to understand that it's always resting below or above the fair value gap, right? So that's what you use to identify, the IPA candle, the fair value gap. This is an unmitigated IPA candle resting right here with an inducement. We have one here, which did not actually hold. Price went into the other block, which was also representing an IPA candle as well, as you can see over here. All right, so which other one? This is also an IPA candle, but too big. You can also refine that as well. So you see. And we also have, this is a revision of last week's topic, okay? We also have, this is not an IPA candle. This is not, you see, the fair value gap has been mitigated. That is not an IPA candle. This is not really an IPA candle. This is a hidden base. We'll get to that though. So let's just let me give you a okay. This is an IPA candle as well. This is an IPA candle as well. So if I tell you guys, please identify an IPA candle for me, I believe you guys will be able to do that. And when I'm marking an IPA candle on my charts, it won't look that difficult for you to also mark out, okay? So let's go over hidden base. What's a hidden base? Now, as you all can see, an IPA candle, which I explained to you guys, are stuff like this, you know, resting above the resting above or below the fair value gap, 100% fill. The hidden base is more like the weak, an order block resting just within a refined, let's say a refined IPA candle. All right, the hidden base is more like a refined IPA candle. It's not obvious, it's more like a wick, like this, you know, on the lower time frame, then a break of structure, another one before the fair value gap. So this particular point is like the hidden base, because on the higher time frame, this is going to be looking more like, let me look for one, this. All right, so this is a hidden base. A hidden base doesn't have is not actually all wicks, right? It is not all wicks. Now, a hidden base is always also resting at the 100% or 50% of the fair value gap, but hidden base is actually just the wick of the IPA candle, all right? So it's kind of like a refined IPA candle. It's the opening. Remember how I told you guys that an IPA candle has, an order block. And you have to understand that an IPA candle is, an order block is a refined IPA candle. Okay, so these three things work together. Right, so when you're trying to understand an order block, you have to understand that an order block has to be within an IPA candle, right? So on the higher time frame, that order block is going to be an IPA candle. So an IPA candle is also an order block, right? What's an order block? An order block is the candle which clears that liquidity and breaks structure. I'm not meaning the last bullish candle, just the last bullish candle or the last bearish candle. Another block is that last bullish candle, which did the manipulation, clearing out the liquidity and gave a significant break of structure. All right. Now, that other block is that last candle, that last push up, you know, which cleared out the liquidity, just like the FU candle. So you see, all these things are linked together. When you have the FU candle is the lower time frame refined order block. All right. And now the order block is a lower time frame refined IPA candle, or let's say hidden base. Okay. And now a hidden base is a refined full body IPA candle. So don't get yourself confused. Most of these stuffs actually work together. They're within each other. All right. So when you're looking for an IPA candle, or when you're trying to identify a hidden base or whichever of them, and you're like, someone is saying this is an IPA candle, and you're saying this is a hidden base, just understand that it's kind of like the same thing, just refined on different, you know, points. Now, we know this is an IPA candle, right? But we can't really pick the full body, the full IPA candle. So what do? We refine this IPA candle into the hidden base, the wick. You see, this is a hidden base. All right. Now, refining this in the hidden base, we want to see a reaction from this. Now, you see, we have this checked. Right? And then we have refined into the hidden base. It doesn't really have to go through all this process. I don't know if you guys are understanding me, all right? It doesn't really have to go through all this process. But this process, you know, how do they all formed? This could be an IPA candle on the daily, the 4 hour, the 1 hour, and the 5-minute candle. You know, it's all the same thing. But, you know, most of the time when you refine them, when you see all this confluence resting together, it's more like a very good confluence to you to understand the very high probable POI, especially when it's breaking structure and clearing out liquidity. Okay, so let's say we go to the lower time frame of this. Hopefully we get to see the data. And then is that it? I don't think, okay, I think this is it. So you see, on this time frame, what do we see? We see it's at the breaker block zone, right? Okay, but if you refine the zone, we know all these zones is actually what? The 4 hour hidden base. But on this time frame, what is it? It's actually another IPA candle. Right? You see the fair value gap above it, you see the candle, right? So this is another IPA candle. You can refine if you want to refine down to the opening, which you have this. hidden base, right? But this IPA candle. Now, if you go lower time frame, I'm telling you, you're definitely going to see another block resting just at that zone. Hopefully we get to see this. Okay. Right, what do you see? What do you see? You see, we have, if we were to refine this more, we're going to have a hidden base resting right here. The lower you go, you're going to be seeing something very, very significant. Although we did have a wick, we were wicked into this. If we're going to be refined into this, we were wicked into this, right, by an FU candle, which was the reaction we got from the hidden base, right? But like I said, it doesn't have to be the same process outlined over here. All right, sometimes it doesn't really follow the process, but this is how it's formed. Okay, all these guys have moved, they moved together and they're actually one thing. All right, so you see a POY, be it a hidden base or an IPA candle, but they're literally kind of like the same thing. And it's the higher time, the stronger they are, the higher probable they are. So you see now on the higher time frame, when you want to use a hidden base, when you're looking for a hidden base, it's highly recommended you use the hidden base on the higher time frame. Right, because the hidden base is like the big boys, you know, and it's just like the wick. Right, so sometimes you can get wicked into the IPA candle. Sometimes you could get a clean mitigation, but this is how the hidden base work, and it's highly recommended you use the hidden base on the higher time frame. Right, so the IPA can do the same thing, so you can refine that down to the other block. Imagine using an IPA from the 5-minute time frame, you can't really refine that, right? So it has to be like a lower time frame. If it's on the lower time frame, you can't really call that an IPA candle. Instead, you call that an FU candle, right? So you can't really use an FU candle on the higher time frame. It has to be an IPA candle. So you see, they're kind of like falling together to become one, and they're like the same thing when you're using them on a particular time frame, right? So on the lower time frame, it's an FU candle. It could be another block, the same thing, but other blocks can be used on multiple time frames. You can see it's resting at the middle, but 18 base are kind of recommended to be used on the higher time frame, right? Let's say the 15, 30 minutes, depending on the confluence you have already from that particular POY. Okay, so this is what an hidden base is, but in all, it's very, very important that you can actually identify the fair value gap resting above or below them. Okay, so someone asked the question last week about the hidden base, and then I was like, you know, on this week section, we're going to be highlighting that, studying that. I hope this has given you a little insight on what hidden base actually are and how you can actually use them. Hopefully he's here. I think that was King, right?
Yeah, Joe, that was me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I came in, I joined it a bit late.
Okay, so do make sure you watch the recording of the video.
Yeah, I'll watch after the...
Yeah, I'll try my best to send the record immediately after the section. But definitely I will send the recording in today. But that's how you actually use the hidden base. And that's the difference between a hidden base, an IPA candle, a fair value gap, and another block. It's not really that of a big deal. You just have to understand that they're all one, but just refined in different perspectives, all right? And have different views. Everyone
clear? I have a question.
Okay.
Does the IPF candle, does this have inducement?
Yes, it has to have inducement. Well, you can see on the lower time frame, the wicks of the previous candles can be used as an inducement. When you see an inducement, it doesn't really have to go, you don't really have to go to the lower time frame. If you know what an inducement is, you don't really have to go to the lower time frame to know that's an inducement, right? Like this, you know this is an inducement. These highs you have in here. Leaving the fair value gap, you know these highs are actually inducing this IPA candle. But overall, you have to know your inducement. You have to see your liquidity being built. Because if you don't see your liquidity, it makes that what? A low probability, you know? Price could just wick through that and then give you no reactions. And then let me show you something else. Don't call this an IPA candle, knowing you have so much fair value gap within them. But allow that to be filled halfway. You know, although this did get a reaction, but allow that to be filled halfway. So you could have that as, if this is an imbalance, not a fair value gap. This is an imbalance in the market, and price would fill that up. This you have here is the fair value gap. Right, this is the fair value gap because you can see it broke structure here, and then you know filled 50% of the imbalance. You see the imbalance 50% was here, so you have to see a fair value gap and you have to see your liquidity. Like over here, you see this is liquidity being built. Although you see the reaction, this was a reaction, and this is on the 1 minute time frame. But if you were on the lower time frame watching the order flow of this structure, maybe you would have gotten out of this. Maybe you would have been stopped out, but all still the same thing. Right here, you see them mitigating an IPA candle, but the opening being the hidden base of this IPA candle, right? And on that, we see this as an FU candle, right? 50% of the FU candle would be this POI. Now, knowing you have this as a POI, would you be marking this zone? You could mark this zone for a little reaction, but you know now the overall price action, or let's say the inducement of this zone would be inducing the 50% of the FU candle, right? But if you wanted, let's say, a quick reaction, because you know IPA candles are always going to have reactions. But over here, we see the hidden base was got mitigated, but also the same thing. Well, but the fair value gap within this has been filled, and then price returns back into the price action, but failed to create a significant break of structure. Right, so this break of structure, there was no break of structure here. So, you know, this is a weak high, and price will definitely be clearing that out. For those of you who don't know what the weak high or stuff like that is, well, maybe what I'm saying is confusing. You can go to the library. You know, we have the channel with all the recordings there. You could use the pin message to find whichever recording you're looking for. All right. So that's how you use those stuffs. And mostly they're kind of like recommended for POIs. You know, they help you to know the best POI to pick and which POI to actually observe. Like how you have over here, you see this mitigated this, forming another block right here. Although there was no significant fair value gap within them, but you see the inducement resting below, right? So you see the mitigation and everything like that, stuff like that. Price returned back to clear internal range liquidity after mitigating this. And I told you guys, if price clears internal range liquidity when it's supposed to clear external, let me say something like this. Let's say we had this structure, right? Price clears external range liquidity, returns back to clear internal range liquidity, this, right? And then price goes back up to clear internal range liquidity, failing to clear out the external range high, returning back down. What does this tell you? We have a change of character, right? Price is about to go bearish because now we have a switch in trend. Price is going from bullish to bearish because now this week high, which did not clear out this low, is now switching power, you know, with price clearing out the internal range liquidity. And what's going to happen? If price doesn't clear out this internal range liquidity and returning back up, we're going to be seeing more of this. And then that becomes a break of structure. And then we expect something like this to happen. So you're saying overall, you have to understand the internal and external range liquidity. And now let's say you see an IPA candle resting right here. This would be a very, very good confluence for you to understand how to use this, right? And then you have your liquidity resting below it, being your internal range liquidity, right? Although external range was cleared, and then internal range was cleared over here, but you can see the confluence resting within this price action, which gives you an understanding of what you're about to do, right? So all the same, these are all confluence which we use in SMC. This is like the real SMC and how you're supposed to use SMC. Before you build a storyline, within your price action, you have to understand how all these play along and how to actually use them within the trade, right? Within the order flow, within the order flow, and how to know which and where to find them, right? As you can see, all this still falls together with the premium and discount. So no knowledge within this is, you know, garbage. They're all together as one to become SMC, right? So any question concerning that before I go into share my forecast for AUD USD for today? And then, you know, we can call it a day on IPA, on hidden base. All right, we have 9 minutes, 8 minutes to go. And this section is not going to be too long today. I'm looking at, I have to be somewhere for a friend. So I'm kind of like trying to run this up as quick as possible and make sure everybody has a quick understanding of price action when it comes to hidden base. So we're all good, right? Can I continue? Any questions? All right. No questions. Okay. So observing AUD USD,